One logic, two worlds, Lacan and quantum mechanics, a structural parallel.
All right, let's dive into something pretty wild. We're going to explore a really strange and deep connection between two fields that you'd think have absolutely nothing to do with each other: psychoanalysis and quantum physics. It turns out there might be a single bizarre piece of logic that secretly structures both the human mind and the very fabric of matter. Let's see just how deep this rabbit hole goes. So, right off the bat, you have to ask, what could possibly connect the way our minds work with the strange behavior of subatomic particles? I mean, it sounds completely out there, right? But the link is real, and it's a very specific, very odd kind of structural pattern. And here it is. The answer, the key to this whole thing, is a structure that only works in threes. It's not about pairs, it's not about individuals. It's all about an inseparable trio. This is the secret key we're going to use to unlock both of these very different worlds.
Now, to get a handle on this logic of threes, we're not going to start with some complicated theory. Nope. We're going to start with a physical object, something you can actually see, that seems to totally defy common sense. Let's meet the Borromean knot.
Okay, so a Borromean knot is made of 3 rings. Simple enough. But here's the twist that makes it so incredible. If you look at any 2 of the rings, they aren't linked at all. They just sit next to each other. You could slide a piece of paper right between them. And yet somehow all 3 are locked together in a single, stable structure. It's a total paradox.
This is where it gets really wild. So you start with a stable knot, all 3 rings holding each other in place. But watch what happens if you cut and remove just one of them. The whole thing just collapses. The other 2 rings, which were never actually linked to begin with, just fall apart. The connection literally only exists when all 3 are present.
All right, I know what you're thinking. Cool knot, but what on earth does it have to do with the mind? Well, let's jump into our first world, psychoanalysis. We're diving into the work of a thinker named Jacques Lacan, who saw this very knot as the perfect model for how the human psyche is built.
See, Lacan looked at the psychology of his time, with its focus on simple pairs, conscious versus unconscious, self versus other, and he thought, this is missing something huge. He was convinced the mind wasn't a simple duality. It was something far more complex that needed a whole new kind of model.
So he came up with a model built on 3 interlocked parts, or registers. Think of it like this. First, you have the symbolic. That's the world of language, rules, and society, the grid we all live in. Then there's the imaginary, which is all about images, identity, and how we see ourselves, our ego. And finally, there's the real. That's the raw, chaotic stuff that exists before we have words for it, something we can never fully grasp. For Lacan, a healthy mind, a stable sense of self, only exists when these 3 are knotted together. And this is exactly why that knot was the perfect metaphor for him. Traditional models are all about opposition, a kind of tug of war. But Lacan's model isn't about conflict, it's about interdependence. The real, the symbolic, and the imaginary aren't fighting each other. They're holding each other in place, just like those 3 rings.
And this isn't just some abstract philosophical game. No, this has real-world clinical applications. In Lacan's view, something like psychosis isn't just one component failing, it's the entire knot coming undone. Maybe the symbolic ring snaps, and suddenly it can't hold the real and the imaginary together anymore, leading to a total structural collapse of a person's reality.
Okay, so park that thought about the mind for just a second. We're about to take a hard left turn into our second world, the incredibly strange domain of quantum mechanics. Because, you're not going to believe this, physicists have found the exact same Borromean logic hiding in the subatomic realm.
They found it in something called the GHZ state. Now, this is a special state where 3 quantum particles are entangled. And here's the kicker. Just like the knot, if you look at any 2 of the particles, you'll find 0 entanglement between them. None. Zip. But all 3 together are bound into one single, inseparable system. Sound familiar?
The parallel is just uncanny. This quantum system is unbelievably fragile. If you try to measure just one of the particles, which is basically the quantum version of cutting one of the rings, that special 3-way entanglement is instantly destroyed. Poof, gone. The other 2 particles are left totally disconnected, just like the rings falling apart.
And hey, don't think this is just some weird theory on a blackboard. This is real. Scientists have actually been creating and observing these states in labs for decades. They started with photons back in '99, moved on to trapping individual ions, and now they're doing it with superconducting quantum computers. This Borromean entanglement is a real, measurable feature of our universe.
Okay, let's take a breath. We've journeyed to two completely different worlds, the inner world of the psyche and the subatomic world of quantum physics, and we found the exact same impossible knot in both places. So now, it's time for the grand synthesis. Let's put them side by side and see just how deep this one logic really runs.
This table just lays it all out perfectly. Look at these shared properties. First, irreducibility. You can't break either system down into simple pairs. It just doesn't work. Then, nonlocality. The connection isn't between any two parts. It's spread out across the whole structure. Fragility. You mess with one piece and the whole thing falls apart. And finally, emergence. The unique structure only pops into existence when you have all three components together. It's the same blueprint in two totally different places. And Knot brings us to the really profound idea here. The stability of both the human mind and this quantum state isn't something you build up piece by piece, like stacking Legos. It's an emergent property. It's a system that fundamentally can only exist as a complete triad. It's all or nothing.
So, what are we supposed to make of all this? It kind of suggests that there might be these fundamental logical patterns woven into the universe that shape reality on every single scale, from the tiniest building blocks of matter all the way up to the structure of our own consciousness. And that leaves us with one heck of a final question. If this triadic logic, this irreducible fragile knot, shows up in both the mind and in matter, where else in the universe is it hiding?